As 9.5 film cameras became less expensive and more popular, a new generation of amateur filmmakers was emerging. And one of the most creative of that generation was a teenager living in North London, Louis Rosenberg. In the late 1920s, Louis organised a summer holiday to Cornwall. His daughter, Sue Frank, is watching the holiday home movie he shot on his 9.5 camera.
They're coming out of the train with their luggage, which my father at the moment's carrying. He was carrying a basket on his shoulder. They're all wearing suits, and you never think of people going on holiday, especially a camping holiday, wearing suits and ties. It's such a contrast to the way that we travel nowadays. My father came from an East End Jewish family. His parents had been immigrants from Poland. He always had a camera with him. I think he was just wanting to capture and retain the memories of the holidays that he went on. They were a group who met through work and all had sort of fairly similar backgrounds, similar political ideas. They saved for a year 2 shillings a week. And my father made the tents for their holiday, and off they went.
Among those Louis filmed on the holiday was a young friend, Jack Gaber.
The very first shot was a pan of a group of boys, and there at the end of the pan was my father, aged 19, 20, looking at me. And it was the first time I'd seen him in 50 years. And I was entranced. He looked frighteningly like me. He moved like me. He was silent, but he seemed to talk like me. His gestures were the same. And my feelings were really quite... I felt very happy, strangely happy. My father had died at age 44. And my memories of him in his last few years was he was an unhappy man, quite ill. And there was this young man full of life, having such fun.
Part of that fun was their determination to surf the waves.
The surfing was extremely unusual and was perhaps indicative of the fact that this was a group that didn't follow the normal things that people every day were doing. There used to be a thing before the days of television news called news theatres, where you went along and once a week there was a newsreel showing the news from around the world and also features. And my dad's group of friends went there one day and saw a feature about surfing in Australia. And they saw the boards, and they just thought it was fantastic.
The surfboard that my father made for himself was a longboard, and it didn't have a fin and therefore didn't balance very well in the water.
That is actually a remarkable piece of film. I've certainly never seen anything like that before, in as much as it's the earliest surfing photographs ever taken in Britain. Saw them get up temporarily to their feet, but nobody really had it mastered to stand and ride to the beach, did they?
As you can see in the films, they could never stand up, because what they didn't know, that surfboards have fins which stabilise them. On the newsreels, you never saw the surfers going in and out of the water carrying their boards. You simply saw them on the water standing up. And so no matter how hard they tried, the boards were never stable, and it was a great frustration to them.
My father's now walking into the sea with this stripy bathing costume on, and now he's just trying to stand. He was ever so proud because he'd made a waterproof casing for the camera and actually strapped it to the surfboard, and I'd never seen the film of the surfboard going through the water. And that's remarkable for someone then to think about doing something like that.
What I was particularly struck with watching the film is the role my father plays is the court jester. He seems to be at the centre of the fun, not the centre of the surfing, not the centre of the chasing the girls, but the centre of the fun. And for me that was very, very exciting really, because he was quite a serious man. He was very interested in politics and music, and he worked very hard. Cavorting, you'd call it. There's a lot of sequences of them naked, which was partly, I don't want to overstress the politics, but it was a bit of the anti-establishment, anti-authoritarian line, if you like. But also there was nobody on the beach. Why not? Let's just do it. And there's my dad jumping up and down in the Altogether, looking like a complete loon and having the time of his life.
Right from the beginning, the seaside has been what's called in the jargon a liminal space. It's where the land meets the sea, it's nobody's land. There's a suspension of the usual conventions and constraints on everyday behaviour. You're liberated from the discipline of the factory and the office, and you have a great many freedoms.
It was a time of great hope. It was before the Spanish Civil War, which was one of the first great disappointments. And it was that sense of political possibility, but also teenage fun, which makes it such an exciting bit of film to look at. And it just does capture something which, we don't have now.